Greetings, fellow Tartarianists, and welcome to episode 4 of 16, where each week I'm reading just a few paragraphs from my book, Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids, which explores the mysteries of the Tartarian Empire. This week we're on chapter 4, which is titled Tartarian Architecture, Cathedrals, Churches and Star Forts. But I thought what we'd do is pay particular attention this week to star forts. So if you're sitting comfortably, we will begin. One of the more peculiar remnants of the Tartarian Empire has to be the star fort. Sadly, this may well be the first time you've ever heard them mentioned, but once seen, you will be in awe of their beauty and the incredible engineering that it took to create them. They can be found all over the world, but from the ground can be quite hard to detect. It might be worth at this stage taking a quick look at some of the images in the centre pages of this book before reading this part any further. Well, you can't do that, so sorry, unless you've got the book, of course. Once you see them, you may well agree that these and many of the world's great castles were actually early hospitals where patients went to be healed using frequency and cymatics. There remains approximately 319 star forts still in existence, and they can be found in Europe, South America, the Middle East, Far East and Russia. These uniquely designed symmetrical fortresses are almost always located near a source of water and are actually independent ecosystems that, just like cathedrals and churches, create a sense of well-being and euphoria for those that live within the walls. They were constructed using sacred geometry and align with constellations and harness energy from the ether to generate the frequency of 528 Hz, which resonates between its walls. They also use the ethereal vibration of water. I stumbled across a very rare book whilst researching star forts titled Seacoast Fortifications of the United States by Emmanuel Raymond Lewis. The very first sentence caught my attention. It reads, "When this book appeared in 1970, it was the first publicly available work in nearly a century on the subject of harbour defence fortifications and seacoast artillery in the United States." This was the first publication on star forts and was considered esoteric. Even military historians could not obtain a copy. The book goes on to state that until it was published, there only existed a small, fragmentary literature that consisted mainly of pamphlets, and for each fort documented, dozens were ignored. The reason for this, they state, remained unknown, as most forts built in the country were modest and constructed quite rapidly. They stress that the book does not propose to examine in any depth the origins, the conduct, or the wisdom that led to their construction. The illustrations and information within this book were gathered from private organisations. And with the assistance of the Smithsonian Institution, whose name alone always raises my suspicions. They are, after all, America's equivalent of the Vatican vaults, and with regard to the Vatican, you actually need permission to visit their vault, as it's inaccessible to the public and protected by armed guards. The secret apostolic archives are behind steel reinforced walls with climate controlled rooms and only over 50 miles of shelves. The text, scriptures and relics go back to over 1,000 years, and one of the rather more mysterious relics is known as the chronovisor. This is definitely worth a few minutes of your time to look into further. They conclude by stating that star forts ceased due to financial constraints, but I would argue that the United States of America never actually started their construction in the first place. In fact, I would strongly suggest that they are repurposed from magnificent cymatic structures hemmed from the Tartarian Empire. However, historians will tell you that they're quite simply castles or bastions designed in this specific way to deflect the impact of cannonballs. I'm sure you'll agree that this requires a huge stretch of the imagination when you compare them to a typical castle or fortress. Added to this, the fact that they align so precisely with the constellations of our galaxy can't surely be a coincidence. I would also argue that to see their symmetry and to have constructed them so accurately would have surely required the ability to oversee the constructions from above, perhaps by airship. Airships appear to play a huge role in transportation during Tartarian reign. It is my belief that many of the old world buildings we see around today were actually used to board them. Many of the towers within cathedrals and palaces could have also been used for the very same purpose. Pinnacles have clearly been removed and replaced with crosses and crucifixes and given the appearance once again of places of worship. In several of the books I've researched, I'm constantly drawn to the words free world travel, which would almost certainly have been achieved using airships. So how would this be possible without a vast number of incredibly tall structures strategically located throughout the world? One thing I do know for certain is that they really don't make them like they used to. When we look at the buildings we have designed and constructed since the Second World War, they seem to be built as quickly and cheaply as possible, and today, glass and metal used more frequently. Not a skilled stonemason in sight, and my fear is that they are specifically designed to collapse quickly, so when the next reset happens, or another world war, they will disappear just as quickly as they went up. Just look at London's modern monstrosities, like the Shard and the Gherkin. You can hardly compare them to St Paul's Cathedral or London Bridge, for example, which I believe will be around for many more centuries to come. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to hear more, then check out my previous podcasts or tune in again next week where we'll be on episode 5. If you've read the book or are currently reading it, thank you for supporting my work. If you haven't read it yet, it's available on Amazon as hardback, paperback or ebook. If you want a signed copy, you can get them from me directly, and I'll put my email in the description. So feel free to get in touch. If there's anything you want to say, please do. Your comments will be replied to as quickly as I can. And if you enjoyed this, please press the like button, please share. It motivates me to continue doing this. I don't like the sound of my own voice, so it does make me cringe each time I put these out there. But I think it's important to share the information. And for those that haven't bought the book, at least it gives you a little bit more information than I can put onto a post on social media. Our group, Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids on Facebook, contains a lot of information too from the book, and also from the members that are sharing information every day, and we're getting more and more in depth as we go along. It's now got over 22,000 members, so join if you're on social media, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.